I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to The Conversation with Al McFarlane. I'm glad to be here and glad to have you along as well. Today is Wednesdays, and Wednesdays we focus on wealth creation. As part of the process of healing our community, how do we build wealth? And I'm so pleased to have as co-host today my friend and actually my cousin that we met here in Minnesota, Kenya McKnight Ahad. Kenya is the leader, the founder, the driving force, and let me say the fierce force behind the Black Women's Wealth Alliance. Kenya, good afternoon. Welcome once again to the conversation. Let me say too that I'm hoping that you'll join me here regularly and that between us we will engage the ideas and the people, the players, the context of creating wealth in our community over a long period of time. So thank you so much for being here. How you doing? Unmute, Kenya.
Good afternoon. I am doing well. Thank you, Al. How are you?
I am super. Excellent. Absolutely marvelous. I'm excited. And I'm excited because even though we are facing challenging and uncertain times, I look at this as a time of opportunity, a time for us to sharpen our vision and rely on our skill and understand the resources that we have and that we are for each other and for the future. And so that's why I'm excited. So tell me how you doing.
You know, look, I am good. I'm good. I'm well. I'm going to say that I'm well. And I think that this is also a good time. And this is a time that we will certainly find out what we're made of. And for our, ancestral, energy and genetics and strength to come through, because I think it's really a time where, we've been living on, right, the legacy of our ancestors, and we'll continue to advance that. But I think this now is a time where we, get to move another part of it forward. We're still blessed to be, I think, with at least 2 generations right now of folks who put in a lot of work to advance civil and human rights, right? The traditionalists and the baby boomers. And now that we see so much of that being challenged right now and torn down, I just think we have ample insights, wisdom, and collaborative strength to build what's next. So I'm excited for that because, we're alive together, to do this work. So that makes me excited.
That's why we're here. Let's bring in one voice. You mentioned generational, and one of the people that I've always looked up to and looked towards and sort of look for advice, direction, strength, collaboration is one of the elders in our community, and that's Bill English. Bill English is a corporate executive, retired, but retired into a life that probably is twice as busy as he had when he was in the corporate world working for Control Data. Bill English has been at the core of the creation and development of a number of significant legacy institutions in our community. He's been a player in the development and protection of organizations like Sabathani Community Center in South Minneapolis, like the Phyllis Wheatley Community Center in North Minneapolis. He's been involved at the core in the work of the NAACP, in the work of the Urban League of St. Paul and of Minneapolis, and the work of the Urban Coalition of the Twin Cities. No longer exists, but he was at the core of the founding of that momentous development meeting of community and corporate. It was a time of change, and he was one of the change makers that reflected the movement of our people from community to the corporate arena. And so always have a lot to talk about, but particularly important is along the lines of what you mentioned, Kenya, that we harvest the generational wisdom and knowledge. So as I sit here, I'm thinking this is a cool conversation. As I said, Bill is plus 90 and amazing. And look how good he looks, number one, and how great he sounds. I'm pushing 80. I'm 77. And Kenya, you're the youngster in this party. And so I think that's wonderful that we have a generational conversation. Bill English, brother, how you doing, man? Good to see you.
Well, first of all, I'm blessed. let's be clear about that. I'm blessed to be still on the planet. I'm blessed to have people like you two who have been associates or friends. We're much more than associates. We've been friends for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
Kenya, who I met over the last 8 to 10 years, heard about her a little before then. But she's become like a child of mine. And I treat her with respect as a woman. But at her age and her interest and commitment drives me to call her my own child. That's just the way it is. And I don't care whether she agrees to it or not. I consider her my child. So however she sees me, she can see me any way she wants to. But I'm going to see her as one of my children and somebody I need to protect and support and walk beside her or walk behind her. I don't have a problem doing either. I will whisper in her ear. I bet you that. I'll whisper in her, and there may be some fat in there that she can use. So that's why I'm blessed to be here. And look, have you paid way too much attention to what I have contributed? Because what I have contributed was no more than I owed.
Mm-hmm.
I have been given much, and much is required for those who've been given much. That's who you are, Al McFarlane. That's where you are, Kenya McKnight. You were blessed with a brain. And not only that, you're employing that brain. And that mind, that creativity, that genius, the commitment that you had to start Build Wealth Minnesota, Women's Wealth Alliance, Black Women's Wealth Alliance. Mm-hmm. The energy that you took to get that started shows us who you are. So, okay, you institutions, I'm sorry, I don't want to say this. Help me out, because we learned this the same time ago. Communities cannot be developed, nor can culture be preserved without strong institutions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Individuals come and go. That institution you're building, Black Women's Wealth Alliance, will outlast you. It will outlast you. Inside News has been here against all odds.
Mm-hmm.
Against all odds, and not a whole lot of help from even his own people. Okay? Yet he built this institution. That institution will last. Trust me, because it's built on solid ground foundation. What amazes me is, at Al's age, and I grew up in a computer world. I spent half of my career in a computer world. But man, you got so many applications here, you confuse me. I don't all this stuff you got going on computer wise. I went, what is this? I've never heard of this before. But the fact is that we're using the technology in a way in which we call it, it's like the drums.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, in our ancestral land, we had to use a drum to communicate. But we communicated. Your Inside News is a drum. Spokesman is a drum.
Mm-hmm.
Those are KMOJ is a drum.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the kinds of messages that I appreciate we're able to use your platform, the institution you built with your family, and it'll be here to carry on this work. But more importantly, it will carry with it the history of the Josie Johnsons, of the Jeff Johnsons, of the Anna Hedgeman, of Nellie Stone Johnson, or Cecil Newman. I mean, I could go on and on and on. You will carry that history with you. And that is what the future will rely on. So I'm anxious to have this conversation on Monday night. I took some liberties that I probably shouldn't have taken, But I was once told by my boss, a good man, a good white man. Yeah, you know, he wrote the book. He paid for the book to be written. And he cared for me. I know he cared for me. And I cared about him. But he said to me that that the difference between, so Bill, what's the difference between an executive and a manager? I thought about it. I said, I don't know that I know there's a real distinction, except one manages his people and other manages people who manage people. He said, no, that's fairly a good description. And in some ways you're accurate. But no, the difference is a manager has to have 99% of the information in order to make a decision. The executive was willing to take the risk of going with 50% of the information and taking risk that if you make a mistake, you won't make it again, and go move the ball while we wait and been paralyzed. Right now in this state, we're paralyzed. That bitch, I'm sorry, but Jennifer Ho, the Commissioner Ho, who has not given us a single affordable housing unit in 2 seasons, 2 application periods. All we're asking for is 500 and some odd units of a third affordable housing units, a third workforce housing, as I call it, which is 50 to 60% AMI, and then a third market rate. That's the kind of housing structure this plan approved and funded. This is public land that we were smart enough to keep in the community's hands because the city was ready to sell it to a developer. We said, hell no. Let's keep it. We'll lease them the land. And when they're ready to leave, they can leave. They can give them a 30-year lease. But when they leave, they leave. We own the building. We'll sell it or we'll buy it or whatever it is. But the community stays, the land stays in the community's hands. We knew that side of the river, that beautiful spot, would be something that everybody would be relishing once the city tore it down and cleared the land and public utilities are in. So the infrastructure is there. The need is there. Minneapolis has got the highest number of homeless people in the city, in the state. It also has the largest number of encampments in the state. It also is one of the largest financial contribution to the economy of this state, Minneapolis is. And on an area that they chartered, the Minneapolis Negro slums. They chartered us that. Now we've taken control of our slums and we're putting something beautiful in the destination spot there. And we decided what we wanted there. And it's a good plan. I would ask anybody, look at that plan and tell me it doesn't make sense. And what it will do.
Let me give some context, Bill, and thank you for opening this conversation up. I want to let people know that we're talking about a community-wide meeting. I put the graphic up. It's an ad in the current issue of Insight News, but Bill and his colleagues with the Northside Job Creation Team, NJCT, and the African Community Development Corporation and other stakeholders are calling for a community-wide meeting to happen this Monday, March 24th, 6 to 8 p.m. right here in North Minneapolis at the North Point Wellness Conference Room. That's in the 4th floor of the Thor building on Plymouth and Penn. And the meeting is to call attention to the question that Bill is talking about now. He raises a question, what does it take to add 500 units of mixed income housing in North Minneapolis' Upper Harbor project? I'm going to ask you to digress a little bit and talk about the Upper Harbor project. It's a significant development, one of the major developments for our city in the past generation. I think it eclipses the massive development that we know as Heritage Park. Heritage Park, by background, used to be the so-called slums, the block, the hood, Sumner Olsen housing and Glenwood housing. segregated public housing that out of the 30s and 40s and beyond, the city placed poor people in general, Black people and Native people in particular, and they segregated the Black and whites into different elements of the public housing community. And at one point in time, as those communities grew and became larger than the capacity of units, they built housing in North Minneapolis in the area that's now called the Upper Harbor area. And you refer to that as an area designated as a Negro slum, or what's the right word for it? You'll come back to that.
Well,
so,
the city of Minneapolis, if I can, Al,
go ahead, jump in.
The entire north side was designated Negro slum by the original maps of the city of Minneapolis. Like, it was designed as a slum for African American people, I think. And so I think that's what Bill is really building on as part of his statement.
Yeah,
awesome.
Well, look, there's no genius here on my part. It's the ability, and the others who are on this record to this meeting. The African American Community Development Corporation is a work in progress, and it's been around and it's needed. And what is it there for? It is to be the recipient of the fees that come from the renting the land. Now, we didn't sell it, so they got to rent. Those fees were get by the city, was guaranteed to go back into the community and help people, businesses get established, provide housing, the amphitheater there. We're going to have people, a community board that decides what X number of pop programming guaranteed that our community will have every year of that at that amphitheater. So, I mean, it's a wonderful, wonderful plan. And so now to make it, and the one that's getting in the way, because look, let's be clear. And I don't believe I'm a conspiracy theorist. I think I'm a conspiracy recognizer. Okay. And what I see going on here is the big boys. The big boys said, oops, we messed up. Here's a 46-acre of public land owned by the city of Minneapolis. And guess who's in control of that? Mostly Negroes, mostly Black people, us. And this is the plan they came up with, and they're going to make the money out of it. Now, if that's the case, then we have every right to challenge those who work for us. Commissioner Ho, I'm sorry about the name I used, it slipped out, but that's just kind of the way I feel about the way she has done us. Because she's tried to slick us. We had a meeting with her, a group of us, Kenya, Markella, Smith, Britt Howell, Makeda Zulu Gillespie, myself, and I believe there was one other. I think it might have been Shannon. I can't remember. We had a conversation. We went over to see her.
Oh, was that recently?
Yeah, well, back in, it had to be in November. It had to be in November.
Okay.
In early November, we went to see her because we realized they were getting ready to announce a new round of awardees for units.
And just for clarity, Bill, Commissioner Ho is commissioner of Minnesota Housing Finance Agency. So it's a big agency, big responsibility, and a lot of resources. So go ahead.
Exactly. And so we went to see her just to find out what was the criteria that they decided that someone that they rated as the #1 plan from United Properties and Devin George, the best plan, and that plan is what we described, you've seen before, and that plan has got no units. So we went to see her, what was the criteria she was using when we got all of these disparities that I just mentioned. And she told us, well, I can't talk to you right now. I said, what? She said, well, you got an application in for this year. And so we won't make that decision until December. So after December, we can talk to you. So I said, okay. Now she kind of slicked me, Al. Yeah, she slicked me. Because she's trying to imply that, Bill, you're being impatient. Just Bill, don't worry. This time around, we're going to take care of you. Mm-hmm. She got to say, who knows what the decision will be the next time. Mm-hmm. So I thought maybe she's trying to send me a message. But you know me, I don't trust them. So when the December list came out, I thought, oh, hell no. Now here we go again. So that's when I said to her, no, we're not going to have no more private meetings. You work for us. You come into our community and you tell our community why we don't deserve some units of affordable and workforce housing. Why? When we got the largest disparity, we got the money, we contribute $6 billion to this economy. I'm not talking about people of color. I'm talking about Adolph's people. Mm-hmm. And we pay over $600 million in taxes every year. Now that's just a fact. And we can't get our 500 units of housing committed for over 2 year period between now and 26. Do you know what 500 units of that kind of housing will do for our community on that site? And just next to it, just north of it, adjacent to it, is going to be the great new Mississippi Regional Park. Mm-hmm. That's what's next to it. So think about that and think about what that will do for our beloved community. So I'm excited because it's an opportunity for us to come together as a community. And I stand to be blamed because I had that ad placed, Kenya, and I didn't ask nobody. I said, I'll take the risk. I'm going to pay for it. I'll take the ad. If I have to pay for it, he's giving me a discount. I'll figure out a way to pay for it. And he's patient with me to get it. And I believe people will help me. But if they don't, I'll pay for it. He got the best discount. And we need our news media to have paid advertising. So I can't go to him. He would run it for free if I'd ask him. But I said, no, I'm not going to ask you to do that. You do too much for free now. So that's where I am, Kenya. And so I'll be glad to explain it to the group. Matter of fact, I got a call in to Keith Baker to let him know the letter you all saw is signed on to is gone. It's gone out. And it's gone out to all kinds of people. And the ad is going to be getting other people. We're on this show, going to be on Al Flowers' show on Sunday. We're going to talk to him on Sunday just before the meeting and get him out there. We're going to go to our churches. We're going to go to our churches as soon as this meeting is over to demand that we keep the pressure on. And Tim Walz, who now wants to be president with his plaid shirt wearing butt, going to become president. He's running around the country doing town halls for the Democratic Party. And at home, we got a budget deficit. They want to steal the money from affordable housing now to satisfy our budget deficit. And guess we'll end up on the short stick again unless we make some noise. But as long as he has this interest in being a national figure, let's take advantage of him. Let's call him. Say, come to a town hall here, bro. Come on over to North Minneapolis and do a town hall.
Well, Bill, has Jennifer Ho, has Commissioner Ho agreed to be at the town hall on Monday?
Oh, yeah. She and her team.
Okay, so great. So there'll be a rich discussion.
And I've invited Senator Champion, who's very much aware of it. I went to him first, let him know. He's going to try to be there. I'm inviting the governor and the mayor will be there. So I'm inviting them all. Whether they show up or not, it's on them. Because after that, if he doesn't show up, then we're going to call him at a public call for him to come over town, come to our community to have a town hall. If he can go to Iowa and have one, he can have one in our community. And hear about all the issues. So that's kind of where I am.
That's great. Thank you for the information. I want to come back and have you give us more background on what the Upper Harbor is. I mentioned that it's one of the major development activities for North Minneapolis in history. And it even eclipses the significant creation of the Heritage Park, which was because of the Holman Consent Decree, the disassembly of what they called concentrated poverty in North Minneapolis, which was the policy of the country in creating so-called affordable housing years ago. So I want to have you come back and talk to that, but I want to bring Kenya in. And Kenya, just feedback, thoughts, reflections. And I kind of want to get a sense of how you see our people moving forward in terms of organizing to identify and articulate and achieve our interest. What are your thoughts in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, ultimately, absolutely, I agree with, Elder English, as I'm pushing 50 now, so I ain't so young to the general population of folks, but when in my younger days, in my 20s, I would say I learned a great deal of organizing, working with all of you, right? From the James Trices to, doing the protest work with Jerry McAfee, when we had to reprimand MnDOT around, workforce and their commitment, even, the great Lewis King, right? Junior, that has been my mentor for many years, who've taught me a lot about strategy and organizing. And I really hadn't met anybody as cold as him in that regard. And now he's working at the national levels. But what he does as a strategist who knows how to, work the angles and bring about results, that are needed. So I learned quite a bit from Mr. King. I think that more so. And so I think that those things remain true. I guess what I know is true is the inside outside game, right? And I remember serving on the tab board, as I talked about in the last segment I was on. And I remember thinking to myself, ooh, I had spent so much time in my activist role early in my career, which is all important work. But when it was time for the economic development work, right, I hadn't quite done enough of that. And I realized there was two different ways the work has to happen, the inside and the outside, right? We have to have people who can put the pressure, right? That accountability, that's historically what we've done, who we've been, and we've got to do that. But we've also equally built institutional power, right? For implementation, for long-term, as Mr. English was talking about. And so, we've got to, position continuously. And I hope that, the generations that are still present today, and also those who are just learning and getting involved, understand that it's both and. And I think this is, again, I call this is a golden time of learning and joining a multi-generational movement that we are in. And so this is an opportunity to learn. But in order to learn, you got to suspend a lot of what you're thinking and just jump in and help out. And the inside game is we need the pressure on these systems. We need to engage these processes full force and go in with our agenda, our mission, equally support our capacity to have institutional power where we're implementing, we're creating, have resources, because the money that comes down need to go and support our ability to execute and apply, right, the very things, but also to serve and to have long-term sustainability in it. Like, we need to be resourced well across our institutions to do that. And now is the time. And, I had, anyway, so that's overall what I think is important. And I think that the Upper Harbor Terminal is, an extremely important development. And I think it's a time where we finally begin to put the both inside outside game together, because we now have some developers who are Black who can help implement the housing, right? The business, the economic, and not just building it, but owning, right? So this is a massive, generational wealth. Now, long on the north side, we've struggled with the concentration of poverty as a strategy for Negro slum, right? And that means when all the housing is, under 30% in Section 8 and all of this and that, then it brings the income or the economic value of the community down. That keeps it poor in that respect. But we know that Black folks on the north side are paying ample money for dumps. And this is our time to create at least a pocket of quality housing that's not only multi-generational and not only diverse in its type of housing, but also in its ownership and the quality, and not only how it looks, but how it functions in its own ecosystem on the north side, right off the riverfront, right? That we deserve. We have to move downtown in Northeast in St. Paul, in order to access the riverfront. This is our opportunity to live on, thrive in, and access a beautiful riverfront called the Upper Harbor Terminal. And we should never forget that. And we're not afraid of what this means for us in terms of growing as a community. So I ultimately think that we certainly need to make sure the governor, places this as a priority in his budget, right? And that we get our legislative, folks on board with being able to do some direct appropriations to the African American CDC, for one, African American Community Development Corporation, as a capacity builder that's going to help support the developers and the business owners and folks, but also, to the United Properties, right, for the implementation of some of these homes, right, that they want to help build with Devin George and so many other housing developers along the way. So it's a multi-approach where this money needs to go across, yes, the capacity building of our institution, which is the African American CDC. We got the job creation work that, of course, Mr. English have been leading, which is a coalition of leaders who've been in that work forever. So those are the two institutions we building out of this, outside of the entrepreneurs. And United Properties, they've been a great partner, taking on this big dormant space that's been dormant for years, and they don't have a lot of economic benefit they're going to get from it other than seeing this part of the city thrive. They're making an investment that we say we want, and we need good partners to do it, because our government, this isn't what government do. Government need private partners to do this work. They're the big private player, right? And don't forget the United Properties is, the Polad family, right? Mm-hmm. So we're talking about the folks who own the Minnesota Twins, the folks who do, who own the Polad Foundation, a wealthy family that owns the Four Seasons hotels, right? They've making investments across our state because they care about Minnesota and its viability. And now they're doing this on the north side. And we shouldn't expect them to just use all their money. We need the government to step up and help out, as they have done it, to build out North Loop, right? Mm-hmm. To build out the east part of Hennepin and other communities. This is not a foreign concept. This is exactly what the state of Minnesota did. And they did it by the hundreds of millions of dollars to build North Loop, because it was a plan of our city and a priority of the governor. Matter of fact, Sharon Sells Belton, the first Black mayor of Minneapolis, and if I'm not mistaken, the only Black mayor we've had, right. And woman mayor, first woman mayor, she created the plan for North Loop, right? Yeah. And it was her brilliance that created that, because our city was going to die if we didn't. And we're saying that now we follow her lead and we created a plan for the Upper Harbor Terminal. Okay. And so we like for our state, we like Met Council. We got the Livable Cities grants. We want our county, our city, our county, our regional government, which is Met Council, as well as our state. We want all 4 branches of our government to invest in this for the future and the current prosperity and generational wealth of North Minneapolis, which is directly linked to foundational Black Americans.
You are so right. But let's talk about now actions. Look, it is clear we're singing to the choir. Okay. What it is, I mean, we are three, like there's nothing you said that any of us disagree with. Okay. Now the question is, how do we activate it? So Kenya, I'm going to say this to you. You're going to have to be willing to chastise me or to support me. When I go back to the group and said I sent the letter out, I didn't wait for you all to approve the draft. I gave you a chance to look at it. Only 2 people responded. So the letter is what it is now. So when they jump all over me for saying, I said, hey, I made a mistake. I won't do it again. But I knew I had to get that letter out. I couldn't wait because there's a whole bunch of people who participated in that process, Kenya. And I got the list of all of those CPC members, all 40, 50 of them, got this letter saying, show up, your plan is being destroyed by Jennifer Ho and big developers. What you plan for is not going to happen unless you come and demand that they honor their commitment. And so I sent that letter out. I sent it on behalf of myself and all of us who signed that letter. We all did an e-signature, Kenya. So when they jump all over me, I'm going to need somebody to help get them 9.
Well, I think that it's not just about, thank you for jumping out there and, for really your leadership and, even really, and see, this is what I'm talking about. See, having an agenda, but also understanding the importance of your agenda and making sure that agenda is rooted in the people, the impact with some deep purpose that's going to last through generations, right? That's something that we can't lose, right? And while a lot of us all care about this project, we all got so much going on. If you hadn't put this back in front of our face to say, we will not let you off the hook for disinvesting or not investing in housing on the north side, we would have been moved on with everything else we have going on because we got so many things we doing. And so it takes for folks being willing to stand in the ranks to say, well, wait a minute, right here, and being able to bring others along, and so when we talk about leadership and when we talk about, all these different issues, we got to know that it takes this kind of a movement and strategy as a leader, right? Somebody's got to be focused on, like, we all got things going on, but you don't need to wait for the whole coalition to be like, let's make a movement. No, you, one voice, a big anchor in our community too, who understands the importance of this and how to move it, right? Who people know and respect also, right? All these leaders in these institutions know Mr. English, and it's helpful. It's helpful to have built those relationships, but also the awareness because they have to respond differently, right? The commissioner's not looking at it, responding to every email she gets, right?
No, but
and so there's some power to that and accountability to it because what she also knows is that we're coming with you.
That's the key.
Right there.
You understood. She actually tried to play me. Al, can you, I know you come from Rockford, right? Or Rock Island, which one? Rockford or Rock Island? Can you? Rockford or Rock Island?
Where, what?
You originally from Rockford?
Oh, Kankakee. Key, KKK. I know where you're going with Illinois. Not
Kankakee. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. Kankakee used to have they had some white boys who could play some basketball, man. They won the state championship so many times and whooped our butts. But they did play. I forgot Kankakee. But
you from
East St. Louis.
East St. Louis, Illinois.
Yeah, right. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is this: as we move forward now, it is critical that we do two things. And number one, we show her we're not going to go away. And the more you shine light on them, the more they try to hide. So let's shine the light on them and watch the rat scurry.
And just help them understand, my diplomacy is, I'm just a little different, but help them understand the value and the importance of, these issues in our community beyond the work they're doing, because the Minnesota, Housing Finance Agency is doing other great work, right? They're getting out. I'm looking at an RFP in my email right now for single family housing development. They're getting money out for other things, and that's great. We want them to keep doing that. But we also really care a lot about the work that, we've outlined and we want them to invest in. And our job is to help her make sure she understands our interests, our priority, and why this is important to us, and the role that the state can play.
So, Bill, the question that the layperson would have is, why is a no-brainer in the sense that you've got multiple parties at the table, private and public. You have the city of Minneapolis. I think the county is on board. Why is there reticence? Why is there hesitation by the commissioner in the state? And particularly because we've so clearly defined the problem and the opportunity. Why is there reservation? And also at a time when the state has been bringing and continues to bring, and appropriately so, massive resources to invest in resolving housing issues. Why is there a hiccup with this project?
We had an $18 billion surplus. We had an $18 billion surplus. That's when this money was all put aside. Now they're projecting they may have a deficit. They're going to come back and try to steal that money. Just watch. I know.
Yeah.
I know them well. So that's why we got to keep the heat on and say, oh, no. This time we're not going to be shortchanged. Boy, if you ever want to make a serious run for president, you're going to have to show us something. And we'll say that in a very nice way. But I'm also saying to him, you can't get out there and not expect us to tell the world you can't win a national election. You can't. We take the Senate and the House in D.C. without us in 2026. You cannot do it without our vote. So make sure they're all running. Okay. So if you want to run for something, boy, you better know that we're going to hear to tell the truth about you to everybody else. So that
I think that this is also one of those dangers a danger we have with like so many different groups, right? I remember the governor's diversity work and how they organized a group of people. And I think when Black folks, to come up with a plan for African Americans in the state or whatever to give insight, and while that's a great noble effort, and we have so many different groups like that. And I think that, the only question in my mind or thought maybe is that maybe the governor prioritized the folks that they organized, right, and their ideas. But what people often forget, while there's Black folks throughout the state of Minnesota, the anchor ship is North Side.
Yeah.
And it will always be, as long as we're concentrated here at the highest percentage in any place, no matter where else we live. And this is greatly defined and known as Black land in Minnesota. And so if we're not doing the work here, recognizing that we need it everywhere, St. Paul, Brooklyn Center, Brooklyn Park, everywhere we are, the suburbs, because we live everywhere. But this is our anchor, always has been. And when things happen here, it frees and open it up to happen in other places. And I think that while the state might feel good about the Black people they've hired, the other initiatives they're doing, the support, I'm just saying, as not that I believe that it's the right thing, but sometimes they get, people get so focused on the little things they're doing and say that we're making stride because we've done this and done that. But the benchmark by the real stride and deeper investment is going to be by what happens over north, and the impact that has on Black people, even in East St. Paul. It's very similar, right? But anyways, I just want to say that for them not to get so full on themselves about all these other great things they're doing and all these groups and all these people that they can talk to. And the other part is, I think, part of the slight, and I don't know because I wasn't a part of all the inner workings of the Upper Harbor Terminal outside of my work as a board member for the African American Community Development Corporation, which Bill and I serve on that. And Mr. English is a founder of it. I came along in the second wave of folks in that group. But that said, I don't know that United Properties had a strong community front with them along this legislative process. They went in last year trying to get resources. So how we stand alongside them in this next phase, as well as with the entrepreneurs and helping the legislator and the housing folks and the governor understand that this is not their plan. This is our plan. And they're partners of ours. And I think that it went different the first time. It went as their plan. And, folks are going to look at them like, well, you're wealthy, you got money, and they're going to be less interested. But when they know it's our plan and they're partners, that's different. So I think how this is framed and positioned makes a really, really important difference in how it's going to be perceived and how it shows up and be supported in this next round. And I really think we should really ground it a lot more in this being our plan, our interests, and their partners in the work versus they created it for us, because they didn't.
No, they didn't. They didn't do it. They didn't do it for us. Let me say this, and then I'm going to have to break off fairly soon.
Well, Bill. We got about 10 minutes, and I have something that I want to do that is special, kind of unannounced. Let me have you do this first. And it kind of goes back to the opening statements about this being an intergenerational conversation. I want to take 5 minutes and have you I'm going to throw some names out. So I think we have short memories and we haven't taken the time to always remember and to keep connected to the legacies and legacy makers in our community. So I want you to give me a 30-second reaction to a name that I give you, people that you know and that I know, and remind us of their contribution and the what they did to help us get to where we are going and where we have to go still. I'm going to start with Harry Davis.
W. Harry Davis, a legend. A Black man who grew up, had some handicaps as a child with polio. But let me tell you something. Became a boxing coach at Phyllis Wheatley. He became an astute politician. He was a good friend of Hubert Humphreys and Walter Mondale, and he used them. He used them to get what he needed. So W. Harry Davis, don't be for him. There would not have been an urban coalition. It would not have been. He also ran for mayor and almost made it. Okay. Mm-hmm. My point is, and when I started Sabathani, Stan King and myself, there's a name you will remember.
That's the next name, Reverend Stanley King. Let's go straight into that. Who is Stan King? People don't know, but they need to know. Stan
King was what they call a radical Black militant preacher. So thank for them. But anyway, Stanley King built a church, but instead of building a sanctuary, he built a gym. And he built a 2-lane bowling alley, 2 bowling alleys, and bought the house on either side of his church. Then he came to me and says, "You're the only one I know can start a community center. We need to have a community center in South Minneapolis." And they want it, and it can't be the way south. It's got to be different. South Minneapolis is different. So you can collaborate with the way, and we did, but we were not the same as the way.
Two names together, Katie McWatt and Larry Borum. Three names: Katie McWatt, Larry Borum, and Bill Wilson. What do those three names bring to you? Let me add one more: Katie McWatt, Bill Wilson, Larry Borum, and Bobby Hickman.
Oh yeah, okay. You're talking about names now that go back. It was Reverend Hickman who helped found the first black settlement in St. Paul. Okay, the Hickman family. They came up from Missouri up to Minnesota. And so when you talk about people like that, and Larry Borum ran the St. Paul Urban League for several years. Don't be fair, Larry Borum. I'd have still been at 3M, retired from 3M. But Larry was the one that came and told me this computer company was looking for someone, and the way they described it was me, and I should go to work for them. So, man, I'm not leaving that company car and this good salary. And I'm about to be promoted to branch manager. Go work for something called a computer. Anyway, the net of it is I ended up, they convinced me they were serious, ended up taking the job. So Larry Borum was not, and Larry went on to work for Vernon Jordan and run he became the head of civil rights for the city of Denver.
Mm-hmm.
So Larry was huge, man. Larry Borum was a huge figure in St. Paul. Katie McWatt and those people, those were Father McCarty, the Hickmans. These were people who contributed. Nick Khalif. Those are people who really dug in and fought hard. Look, we still got wounds in our back from the knives they threw at us. But it's okay, because that's what we were. That's their book. Here for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm here, for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
So you all are here for a reason as well, and you're wearing it well. So these names, Al, we got to keep this conversation going, and we got to remind these youngsters that freedom ain't free. It's not free. You got to pay some dues. If you ain't ready to pay some dues, baby girl, you ready to have some blues. Okay? Because I'm just telling you, that's just the way it is. So we really gotta dig in, and I'm grateful to have had this conversation with two people that I respect and I admire. There's no end to the admiration and the respect I have for both of you and the other people out here that are not on this call today. Whoever's listening as you're streaming. I'm talking to two people on here beside myself that's on this podcast. Let me tell you something. You all owe them. They're out here fighting for you. So support them. And you hear somebody say something bad about them, said, oh, hell no, you don't know what you're talking about. Okay? I once made a negative remark about someone, and I felt so bad afterwards that I made a mistake, because I made a mistake. I misread them. And it taught me a very important lesson. Don't judge until you know all the facts.
Kenya, what are we looking at now? And talk about the role, the mission, the vision of and leadership of Black women. Unmute, Kenya. Unmute.
In my world, a nation rises no higher than its woman. And the conditions of Black women will always dictate the conditions of the community. That doesn't mean her value is higher than everybody's in her community, but it certainly means that the role that we play and who we are has to be supported in such a way that, helps us reach a level of stability so that we're able to access our highest ways of functioning, you know, as the partners, as the mothers, as the infrastructure builders, as the, you know, community folks we are. We care, we're investing, we're building, we've been here alongside Black men in our community the entire time, building and fighting and, you know, helping to create a good path forward for us. But we're all falling, you know, in different ways in terms of our health, right? In terms of our ability to provide for it. There's so much going on. And so we, in it all, yes, ultimately we have to take care of each other, but we've got to make sure that the women are also very good in all of this as part of our nation building strategy, which is important. You don't really have a Black nation without Black women.
Here we go.
Fundamentally and core to what it means to be Black. And that really matters. And so in our work, we work to, you know, also make sure women are accountable. So much of our money passed through the hands of women, and as more of us are educated about what wealth is, how it works, and the stronger our financial skills and sense are, the better we can retain our money and grow generational wealth. Because even if the man's making the money, she's spending it. So our ability to make sure she has information, skills, knowledge, and understand the larger agenda of how we grow wealth is important, because she'll make those investments. So, you know, to teach a woman is to teach a nation. And so this is part of our commitment and strategy to how we build forward in the salvation that is not only promised to us, but that's ordained. And Black women will play an essential role in that. We continue to play an essential role. So that's what you were looking at, the Black Women's Wealth Alliance, and our commitment to education, capacity building of knowledge, skills, and networks, and investments of Black women's capacity to grow wealth individually, collectively, and at a community and family level.
I think that's a mic drop right there. Thank you. This has been a wonderful, wonderful conversation. Bill, thank you. I'm going to close with bringing up the invitation. Bill, you can give it. Monday night, what do you want people to do? Monday night,
for those within the sound of my voice, come to the 5th floor of the what was once called the Thor building. It's now called the 1256 building at North Point Health and Wellness Administrative building, so to speak. There are other organizations there as well, but it's on the 5th floor, and it'll be available. We will be meeting, and she will be there from 6 to 8, making a presentation. We'll have a panel of people involved in housing and wealth, and I will ask anyone, the smart people in the room, they will hear what she has to say. They will have it set up for them as to what the issues are. And then don't worry, the meeting will up, and with you moderating it now, it'll be done well. We don't bring it there. We're not bringing it there to treat her in a hostile manner. We will be diplomatic. We will be firm. We will stay true to our principle. But we're not going to have her insulted or offended. No, we can't do that. That's not who we are. We're going to treat her with the same level of respect that we demand. That's right. And we demanded you come here. You came. So now we're going to treat you as a guest. But you got to hear our voice, and we expect you. You work for us. Mm-hmm. Don't get it twisted. You don't work for the governor. You don't work for the state. You work for us because we pay your salary.
Bill, thank you so much. Again, the event is Monday, March 24th, 6 to 8 p.m. at the Thor building, or the 1256 building on the corner of Plymouth and Penn. Show up and raise your voice, raise the question, be part of creating the answer. I'm Al McFarlane. This is The Conversation with Al McFarlane, my co-host, Kenya McKnight. Join us again next time. We'll see you. Take care. Bye-bye.